Hello everyone, Lore Master Sotek here, and we're back with another start position video. I apologize that I'm quite a bit late today. I had a very rough evening last night, so I've been recovering most of today, but I'm feeling all right now. And I finally also realized that when I do these videos, I should really be on this side of the map because I'm blocking mostly just Koresh, which is not available for start positions. So that's just a lot better. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well. Without further ado, let's jump into it. So Bretonnia is here and it looks pretty good. We of course will get to the interesting one here at the end, but 3 of the characters have not moved at all. They're in the exact same spot. So we've got King Lewin Leonkur still at Caron, being the super badass that he is. He's got, you know, lots of super fun opponents to fight, and the ocean is going to be even more active now with the Chaos Waste to the far north. So there's going to be a lot more potential chaos invasions coming across the ocean from the Sea of Chaos and the Sea of Claws. So I'm really excited to see how Lewin's campaign might transform a little bit, because it used to be that you could just kind of skip to the north, like you'd basically hop to Albion, take over Albion, and then hop to Norska and kick the crap out of them, and then you were done. You didn't have to worry about anything outside of that. Now that's no longer the case. There is an entire new world to the distant north of enemies who are assuredly going to be fighting their way south. Not to mention that if you're interested in being really big buddies with the High Elves, you have a new opponent with Nakari invading Ulthuan through Krace, and it's going to be interesting to see. I'm really curious how the AI for Lewin is going to behave, where he's going to direct a lot of his focus. I imagine much of his early campaign, of course, is going to be dedicated to whipping up on the Red Duke and Heinrich Kimmler, but it'll be really curious for me to see how he handles the new threats like Nakari, and of course how the Chaos Waste factions are going to interact with Bretonnia, because I think for Lewin in particular, that could be some really exciting opponents. Then we, of course, have the Fae Enchantress, who is still in Carcassonne in her little castle, which is great. If I am hoping that we're going to see Grom the Paunch in the mountains, so she'll still have him as a nearby opponent. And then, of course, I think Kazrak is usually in Astalia, and then, of course, you have the Skaven down Talea, so she's got lots of fun starting enemies pretty quickly. Not to mention the Vampire Coast can usually be a pretty relevant issue, and then there's of course going to be Wood Elves all over the place and all that other stuff. So both their starts look great and awesome. Not too much to say there. We do also have Reponse down in the Southlands, which is the Thunderdome. I couldn't remember it last video because I was so tired, but that's right, it's the Southlands Thunderdome is what people are calling it. And Reponse has thrown her hat into the arena, of course, and I think she's going to do fantastic there. She starts on a really nice coastline, being on the pirate coast, and, you know, I really like that start position for her. I think it suits her great to give you just a nice Crusader campaign. And the other thing I like a lot about it now is that Volkmar is right there, and I think Volkmar and Reponse are probably going to be very early allies in their campaigns. They're going to be able to buddy up, I think, relatively quickly to fight against the forces of Undeath. And of course, you've got, you know, Altharion nearby fighting with the Greenskins, but now you also have Khorne and Tzeentch in there messing things up further. So I'm really excited to see how that campaign might differ a little bit. You know, if Khorne comes crashing across the barrier idols, then Bretonnia, you're going to need to be on your A game. And Grail Knights are going to be very good against demons, considering, you know, it's like the mass amount of demons don't have a lot of armor and kind of rely on that physical resistance. So anything that can come at them with magical attacks it's going to be a bad time for them, and that's something that Bretonnia can do in spades. So I'm really excited to see that in action. And then there's, of course, the undeniable most interesting child who's joined, which is good old, let's see here, oh god, I gotta go far enough down, there we go, Albric de Bordelot, who is not in Bordelot. That's actually a mistype, and that's actually why I pulled this up. So Will on Reddit put a post up to correct this. There was a weird, I don't know how this miscommunication happened, but there was a miscommunication with whoever's in charge of the Twitter account. So Alberic starts in Brionne, which is not in Bretonnia. He does not have any settlements to start with in Bretonnia. So there is a new Bretonnian, what's the word I'm looking for? Forward base, town. There's a word for it. Colony. There we go. There's a Bretonnian colony in Lustria now, down here in the Piranha Swamps, and that is where he starts. So he's on the coastline, in a new region here, which, as we can see, is very, very close to Marcus Wolfheart. And he does not start in Bordelot at all. He doesn't have any control over Bordelot. Instead, Bordelot starts under control of Aquitaine. So Aquitaine, which is one of the big Bretonnian kingdoms, is now in the game, and they start in control of Bordelot, and they have also, according to Will, been added to the tech tree. So with Bretonnia, you confederate by going through the tech tree and basically working your way down through it. And whenever you complete a tech for a Bretonnian kingdom, you get the ability to confederate them immediately. And Aquitaine is now been added to that list. And I imagine for Bordelot, they're going to be like right at the start, so that you're able to get control of your ancestral home if you would like very, very quickly. They've also noted that they also did make a note that Emmerich is not a dual start. That was also a goof up on the Twitter account. He does not have any control in Caledor whatsoever. He is purely in the Fortress of Vorag, but he does still have his mission to confederate Caledor, if that's something you want to focus on doing. So, that's good to know. Anyway, back to the map. I think this is so cool. I'm really excited for this. Alberic has always kind of been a character who was a little weird. He's still a little weird. He doesn't really have a unique design as far as his actual face is concerned. Even his helmet is not even his actual design is not as unique as I would like it to be. I believe his helmet is unique, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But Alberic is definitely one of those characters who I would really like them to do some more work on. He does not have a unique voice actor, which is ridiculous. I do not know how we are so far in the game and they have not been able to bring in somebody to do a voice for Alberic. That is pretty unacceptable, in my opinion. So I really, really hope they take some time at some point to update Alberic and make him truly unique. Maybe give him a unique face for the times we see him without his helmet. Maybe make his actual design a bit more unique. Really, the only thing unique about him right now, I think, is his trident. I know his hippogriff has a unique name, Tempete, but I don't know if it has a unique design like Byakhee does. But I'm very, very excited to see the start position for him. He has a very early tech that will allow you to capture Bordelot and confederate and bring it under your control if you like. But you don't have to do that right away. And it just gives you such a new dynamic start position where you are now leading the colonies in the Bretonnian colony in Lustria. And it really, I really like that the northeastern shore of Lustria is now having to deal with all these human colonies that have kind of invaded their territory. So you've got the Empire under Wolfheart. We know there are Southern Realms guys that are closer to Mazdamundi. You've got Norskins up in Skeggi, and now you've got Bretonnians down in the Pirate Swamps. And the other thing I really like about this start position is I think this allows Alberic to focus on his true enemy much better than his original start position, which the true enemy of Alberic de Bordelot as a worshiper of Manon, almost as much as he is a worshiper of the Lady, is that he hates the Vampire Coast. The Vampire Coast, I think, is the greatest evil from Alberic's perspective. So where you kind of have Lewin Leoncoeur much more obsessed with dealing with greenskin invaders and vampire counts and Norskins and Warriors of Chaos, and then you have Rapunzel almost laser focused on the Tomb Kings, and then the Fey Enchantress dealing much more with the Skaven, more greenskins and the undead, Alberich has, to me, he has always felt like someone who was supposed to be kind of a major antagonist to the Vampire Coast and the Dark Elves. Like, I always got this strong sense that, because, you know, he had all these kind of gimmicky buffs about fighting on the ocean, and his Lord Defeat trait gives you bonus for ocean battles. I mean, he's one of those characters that I believe there's been a pretty strong push from the fan community that a lot of people would love to see Alberich become a pseudo Vampire Coast faction, in that he is a Vampire Coast horde, in the sense that instead of his army being just a normal army, he's like able to have, you know, he's a traveling horde with structures that has his own big unique ship, and he basically works like the Vampire Coast, except for he uses a Bretonnian roster. I don't know if that should be done. I could definitely see the argument for it. I know a lot of people have wanted to see Lokir Felhart also receive that treatment, to be fused with his Black Ark. That way he's able to kind of have that feeling as well. But I will say that I do think this allows Alberich to just feel super unique. You know, he's going to be able to invade and fight the Lizardmen right at the start if you want to push into Lustria. But I know if I play an Alberich campaign, I'm probably going to be purely focused on wiping out the Vampire Coast. So going after Luther Harkin in the actual Vampire Coast itself, in the Jungle of Webs and the Mosquito Swamps, and then pushing north across the ocean to fight the Galleon's Graveyard. And then, you know, you're also not too far away from Sartosa, where you have to deal with the pirates. And we don't know exactly where Solostra Deerfawn is going to be. I think she used to be over here in like the jungles of Pahalaxa or the Amara Swamps. I don't know if she's still going to be there, or if they might move her somewhere a little more interesting. But I love this new start position for Bretonnia. I think Alberich's going to perform fantastically, getting to fight Lizardmen and all the other, you know, much more interesting opponents in Lustria. I think is just going to be such a beautiful change for his faction. And with the really, really straightforward, easy confederation system Bretonnia has, it's extremely easy for you to also take over back home. Now, I want to say, I think I know why they did this. And for me, I don't think this was done for Alberich's sake at all. I'm going to be honest. I think if all CA was caring about was Bretonnia in and of itself, I don't think they would have moved Alberich. What I think, and you can call me crazy, but I feel pretty good about this theory, I think the reason they moved Alberich to Lustria was to make space for the Red Duke. I think the goal, I don't think the Red Duke is going to be playable when Immortal Empires drops, because like the sheer amount of content they have to take care of for Immortal Empires is already like monumentous without activating new characters that people have not been promised. You know, I think they really just need to focus on the characters that everybody knows to expect, plus Be'lakor, and then get all of those characters working well, because some of them do need serious tweaks. You know, the Lizardmen need some notable tweaks. We've heard in one of the interviews they did via Reddit or the Discord, one of the Rally Point interviews, that they're really trying to take a look at the vampire counts and how they perform in battles and stuff. Like, there's obviously a lot of borderline rework levels of effort going into almost all of the factions from the first two games, and I imagine there's probably some minor tweaks going into the factions from the third games as well. And because of that, I'm not expecting the Red Duke anytime soon, but I do believe that there might have been a conversation where someone was like, hey, why don't we move Alberich out of Bretonnia? Because right now, if we wanted to make the Red Duke playable, he's in a minor settlement, Musion, right next to Alberich, and he's kind of Alberich's starting opponent, which means that the Red Duke would have this like impossibly difficult start, because he's sandwiched between two legendary lords, being Alberich and King Lewin. So if we remove Alberich from the equation, now all of a sudden Bordeleaux is controlled by Aquitaine, who would basically, along with Lyonesse, be the starting opponents for the Red Duke, who would now be able to establish himself much more easily in Bretonnia as a playable character than he would prior to this change. So that's what I'm honestly thinking. I genuinely believe that the reason Alberich is now down in Lustria is to make space for the Red Duke in the distant future. Like I said, I'm not expecting a playable Red Duke anytime soon, because Red Duke is another one of those characters they would have to bring in a new voice actor for, and they'd also have to like figure out quest battles and his items and his faction and all this other stuff that they probably don't want to deal with yet. But I do deeply believe that this is laying the groundwork for that character. Which that one's a little more tinfoil hat, but either way, even if they were just moving Alberich for the sake of moving him, I think this was a great place to put him. He still has a very ocean. If anything, I think this actually helps him have a much more ocean-themed campaign because he doesn't have to deal with the typical Bretonnian shenanigans. And I also think this gives Bretonnia a much more exciting new campaign type, where now you have a jungle theme campaign, a desert theme campaign, and then kind of your two traditional Bretonnia campaigns, which is just absolutely fantastic. Because I think for a lot of factions, like having at least 2 legendary lords and your race's homeland, I think that's a good number. As long as the homeland is large enough. So it's like, oh, okay, we've got 2 Bretonnians in Bretonnia, we've got 2 High Elves in Ulthuan, we've got 2 Norskins in Norska, we've got 2 Empire in the Empire, we've got 2 Kislevites in Kislev, stuff like that. I think is I think that's good. I honestly think that's a really good approach. So like I said, I'm really interested to see what else we're gonna see going forwards. But I think that this is absolutely fantastic. I could not be more pleased with Alberich's new start position, and I cannot wait to play it. That is definitely probably, looking at all the changes so far, Alberich's probably in my top 10 of new campaigns I want to play when IC comes out, because that seems really, really fun. And I think a video I'm going to start working on here as we continue to get more information is I think I'm going to start making videos for recommended co-op campaigns of like different numbers of players, because I am really seeing some very, very fun thematic campaigns you're going to be able to do, where it's like you could do a New World Colonies playthrough if you have one person playing Hunts Marshal Wolfheart and one person playing Duke Alberich, and then you could have, you have a Crusader campaign you could do with Rapunzel and Volkmar. Obviously you've got your Kislevite campaign, which you could use any of the 3 characters. You got a Norscan campaign, but especially for the races that have like multiple characters from different races could be a lot of fun. Obviously we're still missing most of the villain factions right now. I don't know why, but it seems like they've kind of decided to do most, if not all, of the good guys first, and then we're going to get the villains later. I can kind of just pop back here to the first post, which I believe has a list. I will say, oh, okay, they're like slowly updating it. So tomorrow is Grand Cathay, which I bet is going to be the least surprising of all time. Skaven should be very interesting. So should Greenskins. Ogre Kingdoms, I'm curious where Scrag will end up. Beastmen should be interesting. Tomb Kings will be a little interesting. I'm curious if they move to Archon the Black. What else will probably not be interesting at all? Vampire Coast, I just want to see Solostra. Dwarf should be very interesting for Grombrindal. Dark Elf sounds like it's going to be very interesting. Vampire Counts, I think will be very interesting. And then Warriors of Chaos, of course, is going to be mind-blowing. But yeah, it looks like they've basically done almost all the good guys. Of the remaining factions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Only 2 of the remaining 11 factions are good guys, and the rest are neutral or villainous. So kind of interesting how they decided to do that. It's funny because I think a lot of people are going on Reddit or the forums or whatever and being like, oh man, it's kind of like the Southlands Thunderdome is really looking like Order-Tide, or it's like, oh, this place is really looking Order-Tide, but it's because at the same time, all we can see is order. So I'm really curious what it's going to look like once everybody else is on the map. So in any event, that's going to be it for me today. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'll see you guys tomorrow for Grand Cathay, if nothing else. And till then, if you haven't already, be sure to check out my other videos on the YouTube channel. I just released a brand new lore video called The Nature of the Soul, which is really, really cool. It talks about all of the lore behind what is a soul in Warhammer Fantasy, how does it work, what happens when we die, all that other kind of stuff. So if you're interested, please check that out. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.